You clicked on this video because you want to understand China's book bans. But what most people miss is that these restrictions are far from simple ideological purges. They represent the first phase of decoupling cultural infrastructure to insulate against Western narrative influence in a way that mirrors their aggressive hardware controls. By watching this, you will gain a clear framework for seeing how literary censorship functions as hard strategic statecraft rather than domestic political theater. The common assumption is that banning foreign books is about protecting moral values or preventing subversive ideas from spreading among the population. This view treats information control as a reactive measure taken after an unwanted narrative has already entered the system. It assumes the goal is purely defensive, aimed at maintaining social stability through suppression of specific content. But if you look closer at how Beijing operates in other sectors, that assumption falls apart immediately. The state does not wait for ideas to arrive before it acts. It builds walls first so nothing can get inside without its permission. This is a proactive strategy designed around control rather than reaction. Consider the parallel with semiconductors and technology supply chains. For years, China has pursued an aggressive policy of decoupling from Western hardware ecosystems because they recognized that reliance on foreign chips created a critical vulnerability in national security. They understood that if you need someone else's silicon to run your power grid or military systems, you are permanently vulnerable to coercion. The logic was simple and brutal. Self-reliance is the only guarantee against external pressure. This same logic now applies to the flow of information and ideas. The state has determined that access to foreign literature creates a dependency on Western narratives, just as dependence on American software does. When a reader consumes a book by an author from another country, they are not just entertaining themselves, they are absorbing frameworks for understanding politics, history, and human rights that may contradict the official line. Over time, these accumulated ideas can shift public perception in ways that undermine state legitimacy. The solution is to stop importing those narratives at the source rather than trying to filter them once they have entered circulation. Quick resource note: I keep a curated set of Amazon search links in the description for books, gear, and tools relevant to this channel's topics. Some are affiliate links, so I may earn a commission at no extra cost to you. Please consider supporting the channel by using those links if you find something useful. This approach treats cultural infrastructure exactly like a physical supply chain. Just as you would install firewalls and gateways on your network traffic, China has installed similar barriers for literary imports. They are not just blocking specific titles that contain sensitive content, they are restricting the entire channel through which foreign books enter the country to build an internal ecosystem where only approved narratives circulate freely. This creates a closed loop of information production and consumption that is isolated from external influence. To understand how this works in practice, you have to look at the technical mechanisms used for digital censorship because they provide the blueprint for physical literary control. Academic research into China's Great Firewall reveals sophisticated obfuscation strategies designed specifically to block access to prohibited content while maintaining a facade of openness. One study on advancing obfuscation strategies highlights how these systems are constantly evolving to counteract attempts at bypassing them. The goal is not just to stop traffic, but to make the cost of accessing outside information prohibitively high for everyone except those with significant resources or technical expertise. This same principle applies to books. By restricting imports and controlling distribution channels, the state ensures that foreign literature becomes difficult to obtain without special connections. It creates a choke point where only state-approved content flows freely while everything else faces artificial friction. The result is an information environment where citizens are effectively insulated from outside perspectives, not because they lack interest, but because access has been systematically engineered away. This mirrors the technical reality of internet censorship, where specific protocols and domains are blocked at the network level to prevent any leakage of restricted data. The strategic implication here is profound. By controlling what people read, Beijing can shape the cognitive landscape in which all future decisions are made. If a generation grows up reading only domestically produced books that align with state narratives, they will naturally approach complex geopolitical problems through those same filtered lenses. This creates a long-term advantage for the regime because it does not need to constantly suppress dissent. The framework of thought itself has been altered before any opposition can even form. It is an investment in future stability rather than just current control. Now consider this. Why would they choose such a comprehensive approach instead of simply banning individual titles? The answer lies in efficiency and scalability. Filtering specific books requires constant monitoring, legal battles, and public relations damage every time a new title appears. A system-wide decoupling strategy removes the need for case-by-case enforcement. Once the infrastructure is isolated, the state no longer has to chase down banned authors or confiscate illegal imports because those items never enter the market in significant quantities to begin with. This reduces the administrative burden and eliminates the visibility of censorship efforts that could provoke international backlash. The data from technical analyses confirms this pattern of systematic isolation. Research on cooperation dynamics between censorship mechanisms shows how states are increasingly coordinating digital barriers to create regional surveillance ecosystems. These systems do not operate independently. They reinforce one another to maximize control over information flows within specific boundaries. The same coordination is now being applied to physical media and cultural products, creating a unified front against Western influence that spans both the digital and physical realms. This decoupling of cultural infrastructure signals a fundamental shift in how China views its relationship with the West. It moves beyond mere competition in trade or technology into a deeper contest over narrative control itself. The state is acknowledging that winning this conflict requires controlling not just what people can see on their screens, but also what they can read from physical pages. This represents a mature understanding of information warfare where the battlefield extends far beyond cyberspace into libraries and bookstores. The ultimate insight here is that cultural insulation is not about hiding facts or suppressing truth in the traditional sense. It is about creating an alternative ecosystem where the state's narrative remains dominant by default because it has no competition. This mirrors their hardware strategy perfectly. Build your own supply chain so you do not need theirs, and ensure your people only consume what comes from within that system. The goal is self-sufficiency in thought as well as production. By viewing book bans through this lens of strategic decoupling rather than ideological censorship, we can better understand the long-term trajectory of Chinese information policy. This approach ensures that future generations will be raised with a fundamentally different set of assumptions about how the world works compared to their Western counterparts. It is a calculated move designed to secure national sovereignty in an era where ideas are as valuable and dangerous as any weapon or microchip. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I am a one-person team working hard to make each video better than the last. Subscribe if you found value. It is the best way to show support. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. See you in the next video.